Hi everyone, welcome to my Femme Fantasy reading vlog. I haven't done a reading vlog in almost a year. The last one I did was April of 2018, so I gotta kind of find my vibe again with the whole casual vlogging style here. The whole theme is to read fantasy books by female authors, so I decided to grab a few books off my shelves that have been sitting there for quite a while, and I went the YA middle grade route just to make sure that I can hopefully get some books finished, make a real dent, some books on my bookshelf here, because this is my TBR bookshelf. Like, it's an entire bookshelf of books I haven't read, so I really need to actually make a dent this year. So the first book that I grabbed is a book I've actually started reading this morning. I read the first 2 chapters while I was eating breakfast, and that is Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass. Obviously a very popular book here on BookTube. Some controversy around it as well. Like, there's a lot of haters, but there's a lot of people that love it as well. And I'm certainly going into it with a bit of a skeptical air. I'm mostly reading it because friends of mine who aren't BookTube people have told me to read it, and I found this copy for $1 at my library book sale, so it was worth it. Les and I are actually buddy reading this together. She's also participating in this readathon, and we decided to make this our buddy read because she has a copy that was lent to her by one of our mutual friends. So we are gonna be sharing our opinions on this once this entire readathon is over. The second book that I want to read is Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. This is one that's been on my shelf for a long time. It was sent to me by Penguin when they were promoting the release of the 4th book in this series, I believe, and I was interested in reading them, but I just never got around to it, so now is the time to get around to it. So I'm gonna try and read this one too, and hopefully I'll like it enough that I'll read the other 2 books that I currently have on my shelf as well. My third book is The Young Elites by Marie Lu. This is another one that Penguin sent to me back in the day, and I don't have super high expectations for this either. It's more like I just want to read it. I probably won't like it enough to read the other books in this series. I know there's at least one more. I'm not sure beyond that. I feel like this first book got a lot of buzz, and then the other ones, it just sort of fell off the radar, but I at least want to read it. If I end up not liking it and I don't even want to finish it, that's cool, whatever. I just want to figure out if it's something that's worth keeping on my shelf or just getting rid of. And then the last book that I want to try and read is a thicker one, but it is a middle grade, so it should hopefully go by pretty quickly, and that's The Glass Sentence by S.E. Grove. I have had this one on my shelf for a while now. I have the first and second book in this series. Les has actually read this and the second one, maybe, perhaps, and she really liked it. I did try reading this when it originally came into my possession, and I just wasn't in the mood for it, but I felt like something that I would probably like at some point in the future, so I'm hoping that point in the future has come. My plan for today is to read a chunk of Throne of Glass because this is the most important book in terms of all of my books that I want to finish. That's pretty much my only plans for today. I am heading out in like half an hour or so. I volunteer at my local Humane Society on Saturday mornings for a couple hours, so I'm actually going to head there soon. And then when I come back, I'll probably make some lunch and I'll start the deeper dive into Throne of Glass and get a little bit farther than just like 15 pages in. Hello again, everyone. It is now 2:42 in the afternoon. I've obviously come back from the Humane Society, and I made myself some lunch, had some white cheddar shells from Annie's. I freaking love that stuff. It's so good. Also, if you don't know me in real life, which chances are you don't, I hate cooking, and Annie's is about as intense as I get when it comes to making food, so my standards are really high. So I enjoyed that, and I read a bit more of Throne of Glass. I'm on page 40 now, and it's been interesting. I mean, I can't say I had like super high expectations going into it because it is YA fantasy, and that stuff can be pretty hit or miss sometimes. So far, I am intrigued as to where the story is going. I'm not sure how I feel about our main character, Selena. I think that's how you say her name. I'm trying to remember what people say when they're, talking about the book in their wrap-ups and stuff on YouTube, because it sort of goes over my head because I never really cared that much. But yeah, Selena, she's interesting because she's been working as a slave in this mine as punishment for something. She's broken down, dirty, disgusting, etc. And then these guards and this crown prince come to have her come and be the compete in this competition, but like as soon as these dudes show up, all like she keeps mentioning, like thinking about how like disgusting and gross she is, how attractive these men look to some degree. It's not crazy, but the fact that it's been mentioned like 3 or 4 times and I'm only 40 pages in, a little weird. I mean, girl's been through some tough times. I feel like she'd be much more wary and not thinking about that stuff as much, but everyone's different. If it were me, I probably wouldn't have reacted the way she did, but that's fine. She's a character, she's not me. I'm gonna keep reading it now. I've made myself a little nest on my bed, and I'm gonna just dig in and see how far I get before I want to take a break, and I'll let you know what I think of it in a little bit. Something else I wanted to mention that keeps happening when I'm trying to read this is that the head of the King's Guard, or whatever they call it, his name is Chaol, but it's spelled C-H-A-O-L, and my brain keeps thinking it says Cole, but then it'll immediately jump and say, no, I think it's Chaol, like chaos, but instead of an S at the end, it's an L. And I don't know if anybody else who has read this series struggles with that, but like my mind cannot handle it. And his name gets mentioned a lot because he's one of the few characters we've been really introduced to at this point, and it just keeps slowing me down because I'll get going in this reading flow and then all of a sudden my mind will be like, Cole, no Chaol, ah. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. It's a bit later now, and I am officially 104 pages into Throne of Glass. I do have to say, I'm liking it more than I thought I would, which is good. There's certain aspects of this story that are intriguing me. A couple things that are kind of annoying me, though, are phrases or descriptions that keep getting used over and over again. So for instance, Chaol, he growls a lot, and then a lot of people eye Selena up and down, whether it's guys or girls, and I'm like, okay, how often is this really happening? Like every single person that she meets like eyes her up and down. Like, is this is this happen to everybody all the time? I mean, it's very noticeable when it happens 6 or 7 times in the span of 100 pages. So a little annoying on that front, but I'm gonna take a bit of a break now and probably watch some YouTube videos, specifically booktube videos, and just step away from the story, but I'll definitely go back and read a bit more tonight. Like, it doesn't look like I've actually read that much, but this book's 400 pages, 404 pages. I'm a fourth of the way in at this point, so I feel like that's steady progress considering I'll still read some more tonight. So I'm back. I was watching booktube videos, and then I watched the booktube in a nutshell video by Read with Cindy, and the readathon part made me feel really guilty because I could be reading right now. So here we are. Time to stock up. The best part is, though, now I have snacks. So got myself some Bounty bars. I will not eat all 4 of these right now, but they'll be in the freezer ready for me when the time comes. I'll have one now, but does anybody else prefer their chocolate from like the fridge or the freezer, not just room temperature? So much better when it's cold. Also, Mike and Ike's, because I like destroying my taste buds. And then lastly, I've got another glass of this wine left, so definitely gonna do that up and read more of my book, and you know, maybe the book will get better, maybe the wine will help the book get better. Not that it's that bad, but still, I'm ready to read. It's obviously a bit later in the night now. It's about 10:35, and I have read over another 50 pages or so of Throne of Glass, and I didn't take this entire time to read the 50 pages, but I read those pages, and then I watched an episode of a TV show, and my boyfriend and I played Rock Band, which, if any of you still play Rock Band, we still play Rock Band. We rent the main floor of a house, and there's a basement apartment on like the back half of the house. So if occasionally when that guy like heads out, we see his car leave, we're like, okay, let's play Rock Band now, because we obviously don't want to bother him because Rock Band is loud.
but he left for a couple hours this evening, so we took the opportunity to play a little Rock Band. So yeah, I haven't read anything in a few hours, but I've been having a good time, which is important. Like, it's the weekend. I don't want to just read the entire time, but certainly want to get a chunk done. I'm going to read some more. If I'm feeling up for it, I'm going to try and hit 200 pages before I go to sleep, but I think this will be the last time I'll check in tonight. So I'll let you guys know tomorrow morning how far I got, and then obviously tomorrow is Sunday, so I will continue reading as much of this book as possible. Maybe I can finish it before the weekend is done. That'd be pretty cool. That should be my goal. I'm going to try and finish this before the weekend, so I'm going to sign off tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
It's now day 2 of the Femme Fatale Readathon, and last night I had set my goal to read the first 200 pages of Throne of Glass, and I'm very happy to say that I was able to do that. Before I went to sleep last night, I was at page 199. The only reason I didn't read to 200 was because that was the beginning of a new chapter, so it made sense to stop there. Very happy with myself for plowing through a nice chunk of this book yesterday. Today's goal is, as I mentioned last night, to finish this book before the weekend is out. I work a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 job, so the next few days the reading time will be cut down significantly. So if I can finish a whole book, that'd be awesome. Today my boyfriend's parents are going to be coming to take us out to lunch, which is awesome. And then we're probably going to spend some time with them. I'm not sure exactly how long, but that will be a chunk of my day. So I'm going to read before they come to visit, and I'm going to read after, and hopefully I'll be able to finish this. If by chance I do finish reading this book and I'm not entirely sick of reading at that point, I think I will pick up The Young Elites next, just because this one is more of a fantasy dystopian vibe, and it's not fantasy, which is what Throne of Glass is and what Fallen Kingdoms is. In my head, I kind of see Throne of Glass and Fallen Kingdoms as similar. I'm sure it's not the case at all, because they're by different authors and I'm sure they're different plot lines. But to my uneducated brain, I'd rather read something that I see as a bit different. I did read a few more pages of this while I was eating breakfast this morning, but I'm gonna continue reading it now, see how far I can get before I get to go out to lunch.
We're now back from lunch with my boyfriend's parents. It's a little before 3 p.m., so I still have a lot of the day to read. I have like 150 pages left of Throne of Glass. I'm on page 253. Some further comments. I still like the plot line. I'm still intrigued by the actual plot of the book. There's just that YA thing of always describing people's eyes, like they're blue, they're sapphire, they're dark, there's a spark in them, there's whatever. It's just every page I feel like there's an eye descriptor, or there's sometimes multiple times on one page there's a smile descriptor. There's so many descriptors of what the face is doing, and it's a lot. I feel like some of those could have probably been cut. Like, you can leave a little bit of the expression to the imagination. You don't have to describe how the smile was forming or falling away from the face or whatever all the time. So that's driving me a little nuts. However, it's at least intriguing enough in plotline that I can keep reading. So that's what I'm gonna do. I've read another 45 pages at this point, so I figured I would reward myself with a snack. So today's snack, we got another lovely chilled Bounty bar, and I am, instead of wine, because I finished off the wine, I am trying a hard orange soda, craft soda for grown-ups. I'm kind of excited about this. I've had hard root beer before, but I've never had hard orange soda from what I can remember, so I'll enjoy this while I continue pushing through the book. The book is definitely building up towards the big ending. I still have a chunk to go, but I feel like the stakes are really high, things are getting really tense, people are dying, getting killed left and right, and we've got a couple suspects, possibly some creepy magical stuff going on, which I like. That's why I like this plot part of the book for sure. The descriptions with the smiles and the eyes are still aplenty, still driving me a little crazy, but the plot is enough that it's making me want to push through, so I'm gonna go hopefully power through a bunch of this book and enjoy my adult beverage and Bounty bar. Guess what, guys? I finished it! And it's only like 8:30, so I did pretty well finishing it. I mean, I could start another book if I wanted to, but I probably won't. Probably just gonna take the rest of the night off. I still got a bunch of days to go for the readathon, and I've already finished a a sizable book. It's good. Because Les and I are planning on doing a dual review of this book, because she's also reading it, I'm not going to get into too many details now about my final thoughts on it. I did go into this very apprehensively. I was worried about how much I was actually going to like it because it's a YA fantasy from a certain time in YA that I don't really get along with very well anymore. A lot of the writing style in here reflected what I was afraid was going to happen. A lot of very repetitive things with the smiles and the eyes and the looking up and down and the growling from different characters. So that was not great. If that had been cut down, probably would have liked it a bit more. However, the plot was better than I thought it was going to be. The romance parts got much heavier towards the end, and I wasn't into that as much. I would have preferred less romance, more scenes from the tests and sort of the political stuff that was going on. I'm still not sure what I would rate this at this point. That'll be a decision to make in a few days, but I'm glad to have this done. 1/4 of the way through my stack of books that I want to tackle, and yeah, I am still planning on reading The Young Elites next, but I think I'll start that tomorrow once I get home from work. This is obviously my last check-in for the night. I don't really know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm probably going to watch more YouTube videos, probably going to watch a TV show episode, don't even know what, but I will see you guys tomorrow evening.
Hello everyone, it's Monday evening, it's around 6:30 and I'm obviously home from work and I've had some dinner, watched an episode of Last Week Tonight, and now it's time to read. So as I mentioned last night, I am going to start The Young Elites. I don't have any particular plans for how far I want to get with it, but the font is huge, like middle grade size font, so hopefully I'll be able to put a good dent in it. I'll check in a bit later tonight and let you know what I think of it, but I'll probably grab some dessert and start reading.
Hi guys, it's about 8 o'clock and I have read 80 pages of The Young Elites. I think it's going well so far. It might be helped slightly by the fact that the font is pretty large, so I really feel like I'm reading rather quickly, but the story itself is pretty intriguing. The magic in this is much more apparent than it was in Throne of Glass. In Throne of Glass, the world has rid itself of a lot of magic due to the king, so you don't really see a lot of magic at all throughout the entire story, whereas the Young Elites themselves are survivors of this fever that passed through the world a number of years ago, and some of the children that survived the fever came out the other side with a bunch of powers. And so the powers manifest at different rates. So some of the kids started showing signs right away. Others are late bloomers, so to say. But our main character is one of those late bloomers, and she has been recently introduced to a few other young elites. And I like the fact that I'm getting to see these different superpowers, basically, that they have. I like reading about superpowers. It's fun to see what different authors come up with, and just see the creativity that can blossom from something like this. I'm definitely intrigued enough to keep reading. There's been some mentions of eyes, but it's not too bad. Not too many mentions of what the face is doing with the smiling and everything, but there has been like 3 instances of blushing in the last chapter, so maybe that'll be this book's thing. Overall, I am enjoying it. I'm just gonna take a little break for the moment, and then I'll go back to reading a bit more before I go to sleep. I am now showered, in bed, ready to go to sleep in a little bit, but I just wanted to check in one last time before I do end for the night. I am now on page 134 of this book, so I've made pretty solid progress, and I feel like I'm done for the night. I don't want to push myself to read more, especially because I didn't have a specific goal when I started reading this tonight, so I'm just going to end here, and you can see now how big the font is on this. I'm definitely liking it more than Throne of Glass. Now that it's been 24 hours since I finished that book, I've been thinking about it a bit, and the pros are kind of lacking and the cons are definitely building with that book. Whereas with this one, I feel like there's a bit more pros at this point, and I'm liking the direction it's going. Definitely want to keep reading. We've met more young elites. I've seen more superpowers, so to say, and I'm finding that cool. This is the progress. Pretty solid, considering I don't usually read 134 pages of a book on a weeknight. That's rare. I'm gonna head to bed, and then tomorrow night when I get home from work, I will continue reading and see if I can read another 134 pages or so, hopefully, and then maybe I'll have this book done by Wednesday. That'd be awesome if that could happen. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hi everyone, it's Tuesday evening and I wanted to film this before I lost this lovely natural light. I'm currently in the middle of dinner, but I wanted to run over and get this done. I am reading The Young Elites while I'm eating dinner tonight, so I'm being efficient with my time tonight. I'm planning on reading another 130 pages or so. I feel like that's a good chunk, and then I'll have about 90 pages left to read on Wednesday, so I should have this book done by Wednesday. That's the goal. I totally think it's doable, especially because the story is chugging along and I am interested in our cast of characters. I'm interested to see where it goes. So I will read the next bit and I will let you know what I think of it later. Hi everyone, it's much later now. I'm starting to get really tired, but I am happy to say that I read another 130 or so pages of The Young Elites. I'm now on page 268, which means that tomorrow I have slightly less than 90 pages to read, which is pretty nice because I'll be able to finish this and maybe start something else if I'm in the mood for it. I won't guarantee it, but at least I know that I'll be able to finish this and maybe get a couple other random things done. I did read for a lot of the time, but I did also do a couple other things around the house. One of the things I did do is my boyfriend and I purchased tickets for Captain Marvel because it comes out on Thursday. So we are going to be seeing it Thursday evening, which I'm excited about. I've been looking forward to this movie for a long time. So fingers crossed that it's really good because you know, Marvel can be a bit hit or miss. Stay tuned for brief opinions on that, probably later on Thursday. That means it'll also eat into my reading a little bit, but hey, this readathon is 2 weekends plus a full, 5 days during the week, so there's a lot of time to read, and I've been making really steady progress so far. As far as the book goes, things are getting really intense now. I haven't mentioned yet, but this book is kind of based around the vibe of like Italy, specifically Venice. So I really like the setting of it. I feel like that's not usually the vibe that you see with fantasy. Usually it's more of like a British, Irish sort of setting rather than Italian. I appreciate that. I've been able to see even more Young Elite superpowers, and the story's getting a little twistier, and I'm not entirely sure where it's going, which is great. It's definitely keeping my interest, and I'm liking the characters. I'm not loving them. The writing's definitely a bit better than Throne of Glass, and the settings and superpower aspect really appeal to me. Even though I'm not quite done yet, I'm happy that I did finally pick this up. I feel like I'm glad that I am taking the time to read this. So I'll be happy to continue with it tomorrow and finish it up. I'm gonna go take a shower and go to sleep now, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good evening, everyone. It is Wednesday, and I have just finished up dinner. Didn't read while I ate today. I didn't maximize my time, but also I only have a little less than 90 pages to get through of The Young Elites before I'm done, which is great. Last night I did that thing where the next chapter seemed like it was going to be really good, so I actually stopped myself there, knowing that when I got to today I would be a little extra excited to keep going because we're at a good part in the book. Does anybody else ever do that? Do you ever stop yourself right before what you think will be a really good chapter because you know it'll draw you back to the book? Because I certainly do. Not all the time, but I do it occasionally. As far as what's gonna happen when I finish this tonight, haven't decided if I'll pick up another book or not. It depends on how I'm feeling. I did want to mention that I actually finished a different book today that's not related to the Femme Fatale Readathon because it's an audiobook that I was listening to before this started, and it's also more of a psychological thriller. But I did finish The Lost Man by Jane Harbour today, which is one of those books that I was actually really anticipating this year, one of my most anticipated books, because I don't really pay attention to new releases super well, but I did enjoy this a lot. I wouldn't say it's quite as good as The Dry or Force of Nature, but it is still a really awesome book set in Australia, and I'm probably going to give it 4 stars, but I just wanted to mention that I did finish a book today, and I'll probably finish this as well, so 2 books finished in one day, not bad. So I'll read the rest of this and then I'll let you guys know my final thoughts. Guys, I finished The Young Elites and that was not what I was expecting. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I was really impressed with the last 80 or so pages that I just read. It went in a direction that I wasn't expecting and really surprised me with that ending. Like, this got really dark. And it was kind of dark to begin with, but it got really dark. And now I'm quite interested in reading the next book in the series. It's kind of weird because I was saying before that I felt like we heard a lot about this book and then the buzz just kind of died and I never really saw anybody talk about any of the other books. And now I'm like, I want to read the next book. It ended with an epilogue and introduced a new character and sort of hinted at where the next book might be going, and I want to find out. So I'm glad I picked this one up finally because that was really worth reading. As somebody who does not read a ton of YA fantasy and doesn't usually gravitate towards it, the fact that I enjoyed this, I feel like that means something. Like, it really stuck out to me. Especially if you're a fan of superpowers, which I am. I think that helped a lot. And the fact that this book was dark and it went in some directions that I wouldn't necessarily expect from a young adult fantasy book. I haven't fully decided what I'm gonna rate this. I was solidly thinking 3 stars before I read the last bit, but now that I've finished it, it's more towards a 4, so probably like 3.5, which that's good. That's good for this kind of book for me. 3.5 is solid. That being said, finished my second book, and I may pick up another book tonight before I go to bed. I'm not going to start right now. I want to kind of let The Young Elites sink in a little bit. I'm not sure which one I'll go for, if I'll go for Fallen Kingdoms or The Glass Sentence, but I'll let that be a surprise tomorrow when I eventually check in tomorrow evening, either before or after I go see Captain Marvel. I'll let you guys know what I ended up picking up before I went to bed, if I end up picking up something, but I feel like I will. Like, I'm feeling good. I'm on a little bit of a reading high right now because that ended a lot more positively than I was expecting, so I want to carry that through to pick up another book tonight and at least, read a chapter or so. We'll see. So, really glad that I get to end on this good note tonight, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Good afternoon. It is not even 5 o'clock yet, and I am home. I had to head into work a bit earlier than usual today, so I got out a bit earlier, and I love being home before 5. It's a really good feeling. So last night I mentioned that I was probably going to start another book before I went to bed, and I did. I started Fallen Kingdoms. I just read the prologue, so not very much, but it introduced elemental magic, which is earth, air, fire, water, and I love that kind of magic. It's like, I'm a sucker for that kind of magic, so that immediately made this book appeal even more to me than I originally was hoping it might. So I'm gonna continue reading this tonight, at least for what I can, because I am going to see Captain Marvel, so I'll probably read a bit before I go. I can't imagine I'm going to read much, if any, when I get back, so I'll probably just update you guys on Friday with how far I get with this. I'm gonna go probably have a little bit of an earlier dinner, read a bit of this, and enjoy the rest of my night. It's Friday night and my day is basically done. I have nothing else left to do today except for read Fallen Kingdoms and probably watch YouTube videos, because that's a typical Friday night for me. Last night I went to see Captain Marvel and I enjoyed it. It was actually a lot funnier than I was expecting, which was good. I really liked Brie Larson and Samuel L. Jackson's chemistry together because they spend a lot of time on screen together. I wouldn't categorize it as like one of my favorite Marvel movies, but I think it's a solid installment in the MCU, and I'm excited to see how that blends in with Endgame when that comes. And it was also nice to see some of the things that that were in Captain Marvel that kind of tied it in with everything else that we've seen so far. As far as reading goes, I did read a little bit more of this. I'm still within the first chapter, but I don't have any particular plans in terms of how many pages I want to read tonight. I'm just going to see how far I get tonight and then just base Saturday and Sunday's reading off of that. I would like to finish this before the end of the readathon. I don't know if I'll start that fourth book, The Glass Sentence, but I at least want to finish this one. The characters, when I left off, they were in the process of buying this really amazing wine that you can drink and get really drunk on, but you don't have a hangover the next day. And as I was reading this and they were talking about how delicious it was, I realized how much I really wanted wine, and I don't have any right now. And that just makes me sad because now I'm gonna have to read the rest of that scene and I don't have any wine, but I do have some peanut M&Ms, so I guess that's pretty good too. My progress has been middling at best, but I have made some progress. I've read to page 75, Fallen Kingdoms. I am liking it so far. We've got some interesting characters. I have to say that I think the writing in this is probably the best of the 3 books that I've read in this readathon so far, which is nice. And I also really like the feel of this book. It's just one of those books where the pages feel really nice, and I mean, I'm going to say this to you guys because you're also book people, so you understand, but this book smells really good. So I'm not smelling it constantly, obviously, but sometimes if I'm kind of holding the book really close to my face, I get a whiff of the pages and it just smells really pleasant. It's like a nice book to hold in my hand, which can really enhance the reading experience sometimes. Since tomorrow is the weekend, I plan on reading a nice chunk of this, probably at least get halfway through, if not more, so that Sunday won't be too heavy on the reading, and maybe I can get into The Glass Sentence a little bit. We'll see. I'll let you know tomorrow. I'm obviously back from the Humane Society, and I have changed into something that is not completely covered in cat hair. I'm wearing my Ravenclaw sweater to give me those bookish reading vibes. My plan today is to have some lunch and start reading Fallen Kingdoms. I am on page 95, and there's 412 pages in the book. So I need to read like 160-ish pages today to give myself that exact same amount tomorrow, but I'll try and read a bit more today so that I have a little less tomorrow, and maybe I can start The Glass Sentence. I mean, there's no way I'm gonna finish The Glass Sentence at this point, but I wanna finish 3 books, and that'll be great because that's definitely more than I would usually read in a week and a bit. I did also pick myself up some snacks on the way home, so I'm looking forward to having those a little bit later. I grabbed some wine as well. So I'll get to enjoy those while I read. I'm gonna dig in and I will check in with you guys a little bit later. It finally happened. Would my YA reading experience really have been a YA reading experience if this hadn't happened? She let out the breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It is now late enough in the day that I feel no shame in cracking open this bottle of wine and enjoying some Twix. This is brought to you by whatever was, and this is about to get very Canadian, whatever was on sale at the Shoppers and the LCBO today. I'm looking forward to digging into these babies and continuing on with the book. I like the direction it's going, so I want to keep on plowing through. I'm just going to do it with some Twix and some wine now. I may have a little bit of red wine residue on my mouth, but whatever. I'm just going to roll with it. So I read to page 279 in Fallen Kingdoms. So I read about 200 pages today, which I would certainly classify as a solid amount of reading. The story is very interesting. I like the direction that it's going in. It's the strongest overall story of the 3 that I have read so far during this readathon, and I will definitely finish this book tomorrow. I have that much left, and even a part of that is a little sampler of the second book in the series, so there's not even that much left. So I will definitely finish this tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'll end up picking up my last book. I might just call it at the end and say, hey, successful readathon, but we'll see how I feel when I finish this off. I like the characters. There's definitely some YA cliches in this, as there is with basically anything. The thing for this one seems to be chin grabbing. Lots of people grabbing other people's chins to really enforce the moment. And it just like makes me like, ugh, because who grabs anyone's chin? I never grab anyone's chin. So it's just one of those things that I noticed just with, you know, the eyes and the smiles and the blushing in the other previous books. Just certain things stick out to you. It's what happens when you read a bunch of books in quick succession that may have similar tropes or writing styles. I am going to take a break from reading for the rest of the evening, and I will check in with you guys tomorrow morning. Hello, it's Sunday morning, and I have just read 2 chapters of Fallen Kingdoms. And both chapters were centered around characters making terrible choices that resulted in something bad happening. So now I'm a little bit angry at these characters. And I need to put the book down. I don't have that much left. I've got like about 100 pages left at this point. But now I'm just like really angry. I need a break.
Success. I have finished the 3rd book for this readathon. I'm very happy I read this. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to rate it, but I'm leaning towards 4 stars. There was even more chin grabbing, which now I just laughed at every time it came up, because once you notice these things, it's really hard not to notice them. But I liked this one. It was the best written of the 3, and it had a really strong storyline with interesting characters. It was really easy to tell everybody apart. There was a thing at the beginning that listed like the cast of characters. Not that you could see that because it's so bright, but I thought it was going to be really hard to distinguish who people were, but I actually found it really easy to keep track of all the different players in the game. So I enjoyed this, and I think I'm going to end my readathon here. The next book that I would have picked up is a chunker, and although the font is like pretty big, I feel like I'm good. I got 3 books started and finished, and I just feel like if I started this now, it wouldn't be the best decision. I have other books that I was in the middle of that I put on pause for this readathon, so I'd rather just end here and get back to those books. So I guess you could kind of consider this my wrap up as well. These are the 3 books that I managed to read. They've got that dark fantasy coloring to them. I ended up giving Throne of Glass 2 stars. Wasn't expecting much with this book, but I was still pretty disappointed in it. The writing was not great, and the plot was the best part, but even that I had some issues with. Will I read the next book in this series? I really don't know. I really don't know, guys. The 2nd book I finished, Young Elites, this had like all right writing, but the ending was what really grabbed me. I was really impressed with the last 60 pages or so. Will I read the next book in this series? Yes, I think I will. And then finally, with Fallen Kingdoms, I have the other 2 books on my shelf, ready to go. I don't think I'll start them immediately, but I'm definitely looking to continue this series soon. I don't know exactly when, but soon. Overall, I think this was a pretty solid effort. It's only like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but I'm just gonna do something else for the rest of the day. I've done a lot of reading this week, and some other things have kind of been pushed off to the side, so I want to do those things instead. If you guys have stuck through this entire reading log till the very end, you are the real MVPs. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that if you participated in this readathon, that it was as good for you as it was for me, as fun for you as it was for me. Thanks to Jean and Jill for hosting this. As always, if you want to follow me or Les on any other social media, it's in the down bar below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you later.